Okay, let's dive into this. For today's explainer, we're going to follow a being of pure logic, Vornab, on his very first trip to a market. And get this, it's only 3 days after the end of the world. We're going to track this journey moment by moment as he tries to make sense of the beautiful, inefficient chaos that is civilization. What a way to set the scene, right? The universe had just tried to turn everyone into cosmic glitter, but here they are, back to haggling over fruit prices. It's a world that's fundamentally broken, but it's also stubborn, and it's resiliently trying to get back to normal. And into this recovering world walks something completely, utterly new. And this is our guide, Rella. As you can see, she's already having some major second thoughts. She's the one who thought, hey, taking a newborn distributed consciousness shopping, what could go wrong? This one line tells you everything you need to know. This is absolutely not going to go smoothly.
So let's meet our protagonist. Vornab moves through this crowded market with, and I quote, all the subtlety of a small star. He's literally bending light as he walks. And almost immediately, he just stops, dead in the middle of all the traffic, completely baffled by the chaos swirling around him. And right here, this is the central conflict in a nutshell. For Vornab, this being of pure logic, the whole scene is just a flawed, horribly inefficient system. But for Rella, well, the inefficiency is the system. It's this perfect clash between raw data and messy, lived experience.
So his first real interaction with a stranger is, let's call it, direct. He runs into a war-wounded veteran, and his only analysis of the situation is a statement of fact. The man is an obstacle. He has zero concept of social grace, of acknowledging someone's injury or their sacrifice. He just sees a logistical problem that needs solving. Rella sees this happen and decides, okay, time for a lesson, right now. She tries to teach Vornab one of the most basic and, frankly, illogical social rituals we have, showing respect to an elder with a physical gesture. This is basically his first attempt at social programming.
And the result is just perfect physical comedy. He follows her instructions with this flawless but deeply flawed logic. I mean, if bowing shows respect, then more bowing must show more respect, right? It's a simple equation. So he just keeps bending and bending until his face makes solid contact with the dusty ground. It's a completely logical conclusion that is physically absurd.
Now this is where things get really interesting, because we get an inside look at synaptic core. That's Vornab's internal logical core, and it analyzes the situation. Even though the method was completely wrong, the outcome, making this old woman smile for the first time in weeks, was positive. So logic itself is forced to admit that an illogical action produced a desirable result. You can almost see the crack forming in his perfect system. So where do we go from there? Well, the next lesson is even more abstract. Private property. They get to a fruit stall, and Vornab is just totally confronted by this idea that someone would keep way more food than they could ever need. Not to give it away, but to sell it. To him, this is just pure, unadulterated inefficiency. This question just gets right to the heart of his confusion. From his point of view, it's just simple resource management. This vendor has a surplus that's going to go to waste, so why not just distribute it? He can't yet wrap his head around concepts like labor, ownership, or commerce. And this is a massive breakthrough. Rella reminds him about a perfectly efficient society they knew that completely collapsed, and it's like a light bulb goes on. Vornab makes this incredible leap in understanding. The very messiness and inefficiency he's been seeing is actually a feature, not a bug. It's what keeps the whole system from falling apart.
Okay, so now that he's starting to kind of get the social and economic rules, his body begins processing a whole new kind of data, sensory input. You gotta remember, he's never actually smelled or tasted anything before. Every new sensation is an experiment, and the results are, well, they're overwhelming.
And his approach is pure data analysis. A melon doesn't just smell nice, it has 17 pleasant volatile compounds. The water he's offered isn't just a drink, it has a precise bacterial count of 48,312 per milliliter, which he happily announces to the horrified vendor. He tries a pinch of spicy powder, and his internal analysis just categorizes the searing pain as not pleasant. A kid asks him to glow rainbow, but his attempt creates this strange, muted sunset of colors because he isn't optimized for it. He is literally drowning in raw, uncontextualized data.
So, after all this input, he decides to try replicating a social expression he's seen, a smile. But the result is so alien that his own internal logic can't figure out what it means. It's this wonderfully funny moment where his attempt at being human is flagged by his own brain as a potential threat.
So after processing all this new social, economic, and sensory data, Bornab has a genuine epiphany. He circles back to his very first interaction of the day with that war-wounded veteran, and he realizes he made a serious error.
And this is the question that unlocks everything for him. He realizes the man's injury was both a logistical inconvenience and a meaningful sacrifice. It's his first real step out of that binary, black and white logic, and into the complicated gray areas where people actually live.
I mean, look at this. This comparison beautifully captures his progress. He goes from this cold, factual statement to a conscious, deliberate attempt to connect and repair a social mistake. He has learned something, and now he is trying to apply it. This is Apology version 1.0.
And of course, the execution is still incredibly clumsy. His apology sounds like he's reading a technical manual out loud. But the veteran's reaction, he just starts laughing, shows that the intent, the important part, was understood. The sheer awkwardness of the apology is exactly what makes it feel so genuine.
And what's the result of this terrible, wonderful apology? An invitation. The veteran, Kethvel, extends his hand and offers a moment of connection. Vornob's first failed attempt at social graces has accidentally resulted in his first potential friendship. And as he takes the man's hand, Vornab gives his own definition for what he's becoming. He's not just a consciousness anymore, he's a person, a being who is defined by this very process of learning through trial, error, and, yes, handshakes.
Rayleigh gives him maybe the most important feedback of the entire day. He's so worried about getting the handshake exactly right, but she points out that the goal isn't correctness. Not yet. The goal is participation. Just by trying, he already succeeded.
And finally, the ultimate validation comes from his own logical core. After a day packed with confusing, inefficient, and illogical events, even Synapticore has to conclude that the growth he achieved was significant, non-trivial. I mean, that's basically the highest praise that pure logic can offer.
And it's so crucial to remember. All of this, the bow, the economics lesson, the sensory overload, the apology, the handshake, this was all just day one.
Which really just leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? Vornab's journey is this fantastical, over-the-top version of something we all do every single day, navigate the unwritten, often completely illogical rules of being human. And watching him struggle to learn them from scratch just makes us see our own world and ourselves in a whole new light.